Coming up on this week's edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Sustainability is a very important topic for the entire beef industry, and we're taking an in-depth look at sustainability and the impact it's having from the ranch gate to the beef consumer's plate.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Hi everybody, and welcome to NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Russell Nemitz. Well, the word sustainability certainly has become widely and frequently used in and around the beef industry as consumers become more concerned about how their food is raised. Regardless, though, of whether we like the word sustainability or agree with its definition, we're being judged on how we do things in this business. So today we're going to dig into the topic of sustainability and what it means for you as beef producers both now and into the future. We're coming to you from Blackbeard's Ranch here in Florida, the 2019 national winner of the Environmental Stewardship Award. And recently, a special media event was held right here with celebrity chef Hugh Acheson, who offered some great beef recipes as well as his thoughts on the sustainability of the beef industry. Here's a closer look.
Yeah, I made two different dishes. You know, it's spring and summer, so I want to do grilled dishes. This is a tri-tip, which is part of the sirloin. It's a beautiful cut that's kind of unheralded, but if you find it, it's an amazing cut of beef. And then I'm serving it with just a really simple salsa rosso, which is sort of Italian in idea, and then this beautiful grilled romaine lettuce. Over here, I've got a more traditional one. This is a beef tenderloin grilled, and then with a completely summer salad. Simple, great beef dishes.
Oh yes, Chef, I know a lot of our viewers are waiting to get their hands on that recipe there.
What would you say are the most common, maybe, misconceptions about raising cattle?
Well, a lot of people tend to say sustainable, and let's just mention that the United States is number one in sustainability around the world. So we're not stopping there. We're continually trying to do it better because our consumers want to know that story.
So we're out here at Blackbeard's Ranch where we did a satellite media tour. And a satellite media tour is a series of TV and radio interviews over a short period of time. So what we were doing out here is we set up in one place. We've got our rancher, we have a chef, and we're showcasing some beautiful, sustainably raised beef. We booked interviews with TV and radio stations across the country and did about 25 interviews in a 5-hour period.
So it's a great opportunity to be here at Blackbeard's Ranch in Florida to have this project funded by the Federation of State Beef Councils, talking about sustainability and what this means not only to our producers but our consumers as we reach out and talk about what sustainability means and what the impact this has on our environment.
We have to tell our sustainable story, and they want to know that sustainable story and how that land is taken care of, but also how that beef is produced. And somebody like the chef can prepare all these great dishes and transfer that story right on to the consumer.
And my role here today is to make sure that this beef looks fantastic for the TV and making sure that we showcase beef at its best.
So NCBA, we do set this up as a contractor to the Beef Checkoff. We fund this. We get all of the messaging, we hire the chef, we arrange for this to happen, and then we bring a crew down here as well. So we have our own staff chef here who is working with Chef Hugh Acheson to prep all of the food to keep it looking absolutely beautiful throughout the morning, and then a whole behind the scenes crew helping out with cameras and microphones and messaging and just making sure everything runs smoothly and on time, and we're hitting all of those interviews.
It's a perfect grilling steak. Just slicing it after it rests against the grain, you get this beautiful beef.
Chef Hugh really cares about our product and he has value in it, and what that means as we talk about our product and how nutritious and lean and wholesome it is, to have him at center stage with Jim Strickland here talking about how that is and the sustainability aspect of it and what impact that this ranch not only has here in Florida, but what each one of us do at our back home at our own ranches.
So Chef Acheson is actually a member of our Checkoff-funded NCBA Beef Expert Network. And so we're working with him on a variety of topics, and he loves beef, he's excited about beef, so we're taking that a step further with him and doing a lot more videos and messaging, and we train him up on the beef messaging. And that was also one of the exciting things about this, is to get Chef Atchison out here on a ranch to meet a rancher. You know, not only is it great for the consumer to see, but it's great for a chef to come out here and get even that much more immersed in beef and the culture and all of the great things we're doing.
Events like this are fantastic for consumers. It shows beef, it gets their ideas flowing in their brain, and really shows that, hey, maybe I can go to the grocery store and pick up, you know, a tri-tip today and go home and cook that just like they did on TV, and really gets them thinking about beef.
We know that consumers are farther away from where their food comes from than ever before. And so that's what's really exciting about this, is that we get to go into their living rooms on their local TV stations, but on a large scale across the country. And we know that consumers, they like their local news, they're comfortable with their local news, they're comfortable with their local news anchors. So hearing and seeing a local news anchor talking to a cattle rancher and seeing a great beef recipe, that really resonates with the consumer and inspires them to cook beef for dinner that night. So we were pretty much back to back. We filled up every single slot we could. And it just goes to show you that people love beef and people are really excited to hear about what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, these recipes and thousands more recipes are all compiled at beefitswhatsfordinner.com, and you can also get all sorts of information about ranching and cattle raising across the country, and sustainability and all the ideas behind the wonders of beef.
And joining us now to talk more about sustainability is Clay Bertram, the NCBA's Federation of State Beef Council's chair. And Clay, thank you so much for joining us here at Blackbeard's Ranch near Mayaca City, Florida, to talk more about this very important topic, sustainability. First thing out of the chute, though, let's talk about why it's so important for the U.S. beef cattle industry to really fight to correct any misinformation folks out there might have about cattle and their impact on the environment.
Yeah, it's great to be here, and thank you for having me here today, Russell. It's a long ways from Oklahoma, but we're blessed to be here on the Blackbeard's Ranch with Jim Strickland, and sustainability is very important to what we do each day on our own operations from the cattleman's perspective. And the Federation is very key to do that with our State Beef Council partners to make sure we're at the table when sustainability is talked about, whether it's here, whether it's on my ranch in Oklahoma, or whether it's here at Florida, that we continue to be a part of those discussions.
Maybe go into a little bit further, Clay, about why it's so important, though, for cattlemen like yourself and cattle women across the nation to be on the front line, and for guys and gals like you to be telling that great story about our industry.
Well, it's all about trust. Who better than to tell that story than us as producers that produce that great, wholesome, lean product of beef? We all need to tell that story, because if we're not at the table, we may be on the menu, Russell.
Absolutely. So is sustainability really an issue for cattle operations of any size?
Whether you're a 10 cow producer or a 10,000 cow producer, yes, it's important. We have to know what that footprint is and what we're leaving behind, because we have to leave a legacy. I got daughters that want to continue in this operation. We want to pass on this generation from ranch to ranch, and we have to be sustainable in order to pass that on.
So when we talk about building overall beef demand nationwide and worldwide, how does sustainability fit into the Federation's plan?
Well, we have partners with all of our 44 state beef councils, and we all invest in this in the sustainability project. So we have to build those relationships, and we have to show the consumer that that dollar Beef Checkoff returns that $11.91 return, that we can show those consumers in those high population areas that what we're doing is invested into them so that they have that wholesome, lean product every day on the shelf. We just went through this pandemic, and we're still going through the pandemic. We saw what product they wanted by the empty, bare shelves.
Absolutely, and that is a ginormous return on investment for cattle producers across the nation for their investment on that $1 per head. Hey, last question. How is the Federation working with state beef councils across America on sustainability?
Well, they all invest. They invest into the projects that we do, and we partnership with all those state beef councils to show one of the pillars that we have in research, nutrition, to the sustainability projects that we do, and to build a better beef product.
Well, as always, we appreciate you joining us here on Cattlemen to Cattlemen here in Florida, all the way from Oklahoma, the NCBA's Federation of State Beef Council's Chairman, Clay Bertram. Sustainability research is funded by Beef Checkoff dollars, and you can track the latest findings and get valuable information on sustainability and how it's impacting the beef cattle industry by visiting beefresearch.org. Still ahead here on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll talk more with Chef Hugh Acheson and get his thoughts on sustainability in the beef industry. Stay with us. We've got a lot more on this important topic right after this.
Cattle producers across the country work hard to care for their animals and their land. The USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service is there to help. Find out how you can work with NRCS to develop a conservation plan for your operation. Find possible funding resources for implementing conservation practices, or get free expert advice on ways to improve your farm or ranch. Visit the website nrcs.usda.gov today.
And welcome back to Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Without question, sustainability is a big topic for both consumers and the chefs who serve beef. And joining us now is celebrity chef Hugh Acheson, the star of this media event here at Blackbeard's Ranch in Florida. And chef, first of all, thank you so much for being with us here on Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I want to first start out by having you describe what is so important about media events like this that you like so much.
I mean, first of all, to see this ranch in this amazing place in central, sort of southwest Florida is just, it's unbelievably beautiful. And it's such, you know, it defines what ranches really are, which are ecosystems. And this is just a beautiful, amazing ecosystem that Jim's created here.
Well, you're doing media interviews from across the country here today. What were some of the responses from the very people participating in this event?
You know, there's a lot of questions about, you know, emissions and all this and sustainability, but I think that the point we're really trying to make is we are progressing. And that's the great thing about beef in the United States is we're showing that we can always be better. And we're seeing that we're some of the most sustainable beef in the world now. And we're seeing that ranchers are family-oriented people that are tending and stewarding their land for future generations, not just their kids, but their kids' kids. And that's the important thing. And that's all to do with sustainability and packing it in, packing it out. I know a guy in Argentina who once built a winery, and he spent way too much on it. And he got asked the question, why are you doing that? And he said, I'm doing it for my great-great-grandkids so they can have a legacy. And that's what ranches in the United States are too. They're legacy items of ecosystems and sustainability.
Absolutely. Developing and maintaining it for future generations is what the beef industry is all about. I understand you own 3 restaurants. When we talk about sustainability, chef, how important is it when you're making decisions on where to source your beef for your businesses?
You know, we like to support our local beef farmers in Georgia primarily. We've got great quality beef coming out of Georgia now, but then we look to Colorado and Texas and Florida as well for different cuts. And so we look to places that are stewarding well on the land and doing the proper thing. And what we're seeing now is that so many farmers and ranchers and cattlemen are doing the right thing, and it's only going to get better. We're learning so much, and we're all in this together to make this earth a healthier environment.
Yes, we are. And what kind of questions do you get from customers about where beef does come from?
You know, I think people are interested in anecdotal stories about the truth about what ranches are. And I've been to ranches in Hawaii and Idaho and Washington State and Texas and Florida and Georgia. And it's always a story about these families taking care of the land in such a beautiful way and being passionate about what they're doing. And I think that we just need to make sure we know the names of these people who are doing this type of work.
Absolutely. Hey, before we let you go, what's your message for America's beef cattle producers?
Connect with your consumers, connect with your chefs, realize that you're doing amazing work, but it's the travel of beef from start to finish that's all of our concern, and we want to make sure that there's transparency and truth in it and that we're delivering a great product.
Well, again, we appreciate your time and for you joining us here on Cattlemen to Cattlemen. And let me say this, the U.S. beef cattle industry is very fortunate to have you as part of our team. Again, we've been visiting with celebrity chef Hugh Atchison. Now, if you have questions about beef industry sustainability or need facts to help answer consumer questions, go to beefitswhatsfordinner.com and click on the Raising Beef tab. Still ahead on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll discuss how members from all across the beef value chain are coming together to tackle this issue of sustainability. Don't go away, we'll have more right after this.
Getting to run a family farm is a dream come true. When you can grow good grass, there's opportunity to grow plenty of weeds. We want to use the tools that will help us do a better job. I would like the legacy to be that we took really good care of the land and we truly did it as a passion and we did our very best for the right reasons.
Hey guys, my name's Buzz Brainerd. You may not know me, but you probably recognize my voice from the Music Row Happy Hour on the highway on Sirius XM and mornings on Y2 Country. And I would like to invite you to join me August 10th through the 12th at the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show. This is the event for the cattle business, and it's one that you do not want to miss. Come on back to Nashville and CattleCon 21. For all the details, go to convention.ncba.org, and I'll see you here.
Join the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. NCBA is the oldest cattle industry organization, working every day to defend your interests in Washington, D.C. And there are big benefits to being a member. You'll get news you can use in the National Cattlemen and policy updates from Beltway Beef, plus big discounts from John Deere, Cabela's, and more great partners. Join now. Call 866-233-3872 or sign up online at ncba.org.
The U.S. produces some of the most sustainable beef in the entire world thanks to decades of innovation and the ongoing efforts of our farmers and ranchers. Despite this progress, all segments of the supply chain, from the farm or ranch gate to the consumer's plate, need to continue to demonstrate how they're working to improve the environmental impact of beef production. Cattlemen to Cattlemen reporter Brian Baxter has more on how U.S. beef industry stakeholders are coming together to help highlight the sustainability of American beef.
For U.S. cattle producers, taking care of their land and their cattle is always top of mind. But what exactly is sustainable beef and how is it measured? Those are two key questions the U.S. Roundtable for Sustainable Beef is working to answer.
In 2015, multiple groups came together to address the issue of sustainability in the U.S. We formed the U.S. Roundtable for Sustainable Beef, where various industry stakeholders came together and thought, how can we all work together as beef industry stakeholders to make continuous and drive continuous improvement?
The National Cattlemen's Beef Association has been part of this initiative from the beginning. The U.S. Roundtable for Sustainable Beef now has over 100 members working around a shared vision of making the entire U.S. beef value chain the trusted global leader in environmentally sound, socially responsible, and economically viable beef.
It's any stakeholder in beef sustainability, and so that not only includes members of the beef value chain, whether that's a cow-calf producer or whether that's McDonald's or Walmart on the retail end of the supply chain, but it's also those non-government organizations who, whether we like it or not, have a very strong influence around the globe and with consumers.
We knew that for this group to be successful, that we had to represent the entire beef industry, from cow-calf to feed yard, to the packers and processors and retailers. And we knew each group would be critical in the formation of something that was going to drive continuous improvement and sustainability across the entire beef value chain. But we also recognized that there were other people that had an interest in beef. We knew that NGOs, academics, what we call civil society, could help us in making decisions that were meaningful for not only the beef industry, but for our whole world and the consumers of our products.
The U.S. Roundtable for Sustainable Beef's ultimate success is linked to that ability to bring together people and organizations who have diverse interests and concerns about sustainability. That even means including some groups that have, in the past, been opposed to beef production.
We have an opportunity, an educational opportunity, to work with those folks and share the story of beef, share the scientific literature that showcases all those benefits that we provide. And we can do that through what is the Roundtable for Sustainable Beef. And by bringing those folks to the table, understanding their concerns, being able to provide them with information to address those concerns, I would say that we have made a lot of those adversaries into allies.
The focus on sustainability today is worldwide. That's why the U.S. Roundtable for Sustainable Beef is a regional partner for the Global Roundtable for Sustainable Beef. The two groups share many principles and ideas, with U.S. RSB adapting them to fit the U.S. beef industry.
The Global Roundtable has set forth their principles and criteria that represent an umbrella or a broad brush view of what sustainability means across the world. It's then the job of the regional sustainability roundtables, such as the U.S. Roundtable for Sustainable Beef, to come underneath that and find the specific things that work for our area of the world and help support those global initiatives. So ultimately, the goals are just another tool that helps drive the U.S. beef production to be a net positive impact on the global situation. We have greenhouse gas emissions, land use, water use, all of these topics that come together and allow us to showcase the great things that we're doing for the environment and the world.
Improving the global beef reputation improves the reputation of U.S. beef. And so make no mistake about it, our efforts on the global stage benefit us here in the U.S. And so that's why we engage at both levels, because it's important at both levels.
One of the key steps for the U.S. RSB was the creation of high-priority sustainability indicators for the beef industry. The indicators allow the beef value chain to benchmark its efforts and identify ways to continue advancing beef's sustainability.
Early on, we knew that we needed to identify those things that were important to the entire beef value chain in regards to sustainability. We formed working groups, and we came together to identify 6 high priority indicators for beef sustainability. Those are water resource, land resources, air and greenhouse gas emissions, efficiency and yield, animal health and well-being, and worker health and safety. We knew that these big buckets would help us to drive forward in the initiative to make the U.S. beef the most sustainable in the world.
There's no doubt research shows consumers are interested in the social, economic, and environmental impacts of the food they purchase. The work of the U.S. Roundtable for Sustainable Beef will help these consumers better understand the beef industry's long-term commitment to using its resources responsibly.
There is no other agricultural commodity that has the story that we have to tell about what we do for the land, the water, the air, the animal, and the communities that we support. We have a great story to tell. We have a lot of scientific literature that supports a lot of those benefits that we provide the communities as well as the animal and the land. We just have to be able to tell that story in a meaningful way.
And we've got a great story to tell. We're doing great things in the environment through beef production. And we need to tell that story. We need to let the world know how well we are taking care of these animals and how well we are taking care of the world that they're going to live in and their kids are going to live in. In the U.S. Roundtable for Sustainable Beef, every one of our sectors, whether it's packers, producers, feed yards, or retails, we all want to be pulling the same direction and telling that great story about what U.S. beef producers do.
I'm Brian Baxter reporting for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Now you can follow the work of the U.S. Roundtable for Sustainable Beef at their website, usrsb.org. Sustainability matters to our farmers and ranchers and has for a very long time now. Here to talk more about this important topic is our host, Jim Strickland from the Blackbeards Ranch here in Central Florida. And Jim, thank you first of all for inviting the Cattlemen team to your beautiful ranch near Mayaca City, Florida. Your operation was the National Environmental Stewardship Award winner in 2019. Has conservation and sustainability always been important to this ag operation?
Absolutely. One, let me just thank NCBA, the ESAP award winner, the donors, the judges, because they've given a rancher in South Florida a huge opportunity to talk about that conservation aspect of what you and I do. So yes, conservation has always been an important part. We've leased a lot of land. We've seen changes in Florida. We have 1,000 people a day coming to Florida. Is it important for conservation to happen in the state of Florida? Yeah. It's also important for conservation and those stories to be told across the United States.
Well, running cattle and having a profitable cattle operation is a little bit different, I might imagine, here in Florida versus a state like my home state of Montana, especially with the population base you have with Tampa just up the road and Orlando up the road, Miami down the road. Let's talk about urban encroachment and conservation easements and how cattlemen here in a state like Florida are addressing this issue.
I tell you what, we are working tirelessly. There is a lot of cattlemen with hundreds of thousands of acres that would love to have conservation easements on their land. And essentially a conservation easement, for those that don't know, is there's an entity that's buying your development rights that you will manage and take care of that land, pass it on to your future generations, or sell it to somebody else that wants to be in the cattle industry. And it gives you a cash flow, but it also protects all those attributes that all the ranches have out there. So whether it's wildlife connectivity, endangered species, habitat, water filtration systems, water bodies that we hold water before it goes downstream. We now talking about carbon sequestration. That's coming right up. So we're looking at that on this ranch. We're doing some carbon sequestration studies on hydric soils, non-hydric soils, using probiotics. We want to be ready when that market comes. When we finally do figure out this carbon market, we would like to be ready.
Jim, in agriculture, including the U.S. beef cattle industry, we hear about a lot of new terms, including the big topic we've been talking about mostly in this interview, sustainability, but a new one that you introduced us during this trip, ecosystem services. Tell us more.
I'm going to tell you, I think that's going to make a huge impact on the cattle industry across America, but particularly here in Florida is where we're working on it with our Climate Smart group out of University of Florida, with our Florida Conservation Group, a nonprofit of which we participate in, is telling the story. Well, the story we're trying to tell is, what do these passive ranches that say the husband and wife with a family of 4 or 2 drive by and say that's a beautiful ranch? We want to work with scientists, with data, with research, and what we'd like to do is quantify all of those aspects of a ranch or timberland and what those aspects do for society. So we're talking about water quality. We're talking about water quantity. We're talking about carbon sequestration. So if we can quantify those things, sustainability means staying in business and passing on to future generations, whoever they are, a good piece of ground. Without profitability, sustainability doesn't work. So you have to be profitable. So we're looking at indicating all those things that ranches across America, but really here in Florida right now, working with University of Florida and their researchers, their scientists, to show in dollars, what do we do for oxygen, for water quality, for wildlife, for habitat, endangered species. We're looking at all those things. We can store water and then self-filtrate that water and then let it go downstream. So we're really excited, but we need more data and we need more science, and we're really looking to the federal level. USDA, NRCS, they're starting to really put their ear to the ground on what us ranchers, timber owners do for society.
Absolutely. Sometimes profitability in the ag industry all starts with just being able to think outside the box just a little bit. Final question for you, friend. What is your message to some of your fellow producers out there on this ginormous topic of sustainability, and for those who may want the topic just to go away?
Well, it's like a lot of other things. I'm 65 years old. We've been ranching here in Florida since 1860. A lot of the topics have changed, and we've had to embrace a lot of those topics. Sustainability is an easy sell. What you do on your ranch, whether it's 10 acres, 20 acres, or 20,000 acres, what you do on that ranch, we need to tell that story. We're really important to tell that sustainability story and what you do on the ranch. Don't be afraid of it. You're doing a good job. We're BMP certified here. We're BQA certified here. We've got a great voice here, and NCBA gives us another great voice that can go worldwide. So embrace this sustainability story and learn how to tell it.
Well, absolutely. Well, we appreciate you joining us here on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen and being such a great spokesperson who not only talks the talk, but also walks the walk when it comes to important topics like sustainability and conservation here in the U.S. beef cattle industry. Jim Strickland from Blackbeard's Ranch here in Central Florida. And a great way to stay on top of this and other important issues facing the cattle industry is to become a member of NCBA like Jim Strickland. And it's easy to join. Just call 1-866-233-3872 or visit the website ncba.org. Still to come, producers need to constantly evaluate every aspect of their operation to help ensure they're profitable and sustainable. That story right after this.
It's time to tune in to Tennessee. That's where the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show will be in 2021. It's the biggest convention just for cattle producers. In Nashville, a city with amazing Southern hospitality that's packed with the best food and great music. You can't miss it. So make plans now for CattleCon 2021 at the Gaylord Opryland Resort in Nashville, Tennessee. Tune in to convention.ncba.org for more information.
Nasalgen 3 is a new 3-way intranasal BRD vaccine that offers young calves unrivaled protection against devastating respiratory diseases, including IBR, BRSV, and PI3. And it has a unique blue shadow, so there's no second guessing which animals have been vaccinated. To up your protection, choose new Nasalgen 3 PMH, the first and only 5-way intranasal vaccine on the market. Talk to your veterinarian and visit nasalgen.com to learn more.
Producers need to constantly evaluate every aspect of their operation to help ensure they're profitable and sustainable. Cattlemen to Cattlemen reporter Brad Bulla is in East Tennessee to learn how one Angus operation is using careful research, planning, and data to reach their goals.
McGinn Angus might not look unusual. They're putting up hay and caring for their cattle like any other producer in East Tennessee. But John McGinn founded this operation only a few years ago, after a business career far from the farm.
I got my first Angus cattle in 2018. I started out with commercial cattle initially. I bought this place. I escaped Northern Virginia, living in a townhouse, and I wanted a little land. And when I got the land, my neighbor had some commercial cattle, and it was kind of like, well, you know, I can either mow it or I can let them mow it. So I started with commercial cattle, found out quickly that there wasn't any way for me locally to make money with commercial cattle.
John's career in finance and information technology included lots of experience with data analysis. So on the farm, he analyzed his market opportunities and quickly shifted to a purebred operation focused on creating exceptional Angus female genetics.
There's always a market for elite cattle. And because I didn't have so many cattle, it was like, well, why don't I do an evaluation and figure out what would be the ultimate cow. So I spent, probably 4 or 5 months really evaluating EPDs, talking to some of the breeders. I had some really good mentors along the way to talk what they were doing, right, wrong, or indifferent, just to learn from. By nature, I ask a lot of questions, so I asked a whole lot of questions. And then I got on the whiteboard and I put together what I thought would be, a great cow, genetically.
In fact, John created his own algorithm to select the highest value traits, and he ended up producing what was, at the time, the #1 Angus heifer in the nation.
So, I got either lucky or my algorithm really does work. But the balance was great because, you know, that first heifer had all of those traits. And she was #1 in the breed for $C, $B, and $F when she came out, with calving ease, with a big, I think her yearling weight was like a 198. So she was great across the board. Her structure was really good, and you know, she performed. My genetics are for sale. I really am trying to breed the best donors in the breed. I'd like my legacy to be that cattle for generations to come started with some of my offspring.
As he's worked to build his cattle operation, John has kept his off-farm job. Even so, he remains sharply focused on bottom-line results.
I keep all of my inputs in QuickBooks. So, you know, I mean, I run all sorts of reports. You know, I know what it takes me to keep a cow for a year. I know right down to the penny what it cost me for embryos to make them. So, yeah, I mean, I really track all of my inputs.
Obviously has a lot of knowledge, so he's unique in that he can tell you down to the penny what he has in his cattle. I think he's very data driven, tracking his costs, his inputs, and then the results at the end.
West Hills Tractor is where John turned when he bought the farm and needed machinery to get the land in shape and to begin cutting and baling his hay.
So when John first came around, we obviously didn't know him. He wanted to get into the cattle business and needed a supplier for tractors and hay tools and other farm equipment. But he was basically starting from scratch. He bought some property, didn't have any cattle, didn't have any equipment. So we sold him his first tractor, and then we sold him some hay equipment after that, and developed a relationship.
I established a really good relationship with my local New Holland dealership. Chad's my salesman. You know, I know the owner, Tim, well, as you know. So working with them and trying to really figure out them understanding my need for speed, because I have a day job and I need to be able to be efficient with my time. Buying the right equipment, I'd rather buy, you know, more robust equipment that's going to help me do the job faster.
The thing I found out about John right off the bat was it was more than just, hey, I want a hobby to do. He had a desire to do this, and his thing is he wants to have good cattle, healthy cattle, and he wants to take care of the land, and he wants to leave it in better shape than where he got it, and he's done that. And so we began to talk about the equipment he's going to need.
So I have a compact track loader. I have a T5 110 cabbed New Holland four-wheel drive tractor. I use a New Holland baler. I use a New Holland rake. I use a disc mower conditioner that's a New Holland. I grind all my hay because I don't waste any that way, so I had to buy a hammer mill. I needed a mix wagon. So I bought a number of things, and the dealer's been my partner all along the way as I bought all of the equipment.
With the same skills he uses to analyze the genetic traits in his cattle, John also tracks data on the performance of his New Holland equipment.
I look at the service life of it, and I come out with an hourly rate of what does it cost me over the course of that machine's life to run it. So that's the base rate. Then if it uses fuel, I factor in, you know, what's the fuel consumption per hour for the piece of equipment. And then I look at the service interval and what's it cost to service that piece of equipment by the number of hours. And I come out with a blended hour rate of what every piece of equipment on the farm cost me, and I track it.
As important as his machinery is to him, knowing he can count on good advice and reliable service from his New Holland dealer is critical for John as well.
I just can't say enough about West Hills Tractor and the service that they provide, both in the repair shop, the parts, and even supplies. You know, hay season, they're crazy busy, but they've been out here in the middle of hay season where I broke a chain on the baler or, you know, needed a belt repaired. So in general, it's just the fact that, you know, I know they're a partner with me. Whatever I need, they're right there to help me. They're a phone call away, whether it's working hours or not. I just get great service from them.
When you care about that person, you're going to want to make sure that they're getting the best bang for their buck in what they do. And that's what we try to build here at West Hills Tractor.
Reporting from McGinn Angus in East Tennessee, I'm Brad Bulla for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Now, to learn more about how New Holland equipment can help your operation, Just visit their website, newholland.com. Still ahead, it's time for a visit with the cowboy poet Baxter Black, so stay with us. We'll be right back.
When the field is your office, you never get tired of going to work. Cut, rake, bale, repeat. New Holland offers the power and versatility to get through the day. From small squares to large squares and everything in between, New Holland has you covered. Visit your local dealer today to find out more. New Holland.
Did you know that Prefert makes over 1,000 different farm, ranch, and rodeo items? And now, thanks to Prefert Direct, it's easier than ever before to get access to every item Prefert makes delivered direct to your local dealer. For more information about Prefert Direct, visit us at prefert.com. Prefert, America's #1 name in farm, ranch, and rodeo.
We know you're up before the dawn because the cattle rise before the sun. And you spend long hours in the saddle because the herd isn't always over the next rise. And you care for the land because you know it takes care of your family. And we know you do great work. And it's time to tell that story to the marketplace. IMI Global is here to help you do just that. In feast or famine, at least examine the game we came to play, because win or lose, it's how we use the cards that come our way. Just let her rain, the rancher said. We built up quite a thirst. I know the low road's plumb washed out and the tank dam's bound to burst. And we'll have to plant the wheat again and clean the water gaps, but you won't hear this fool complain if it reaches to my shafts. Truth is, friends, we've needed this. We've been so dry so long, I thought I'd have to sell the cows and pay the piper's song. The winter grass just lay there, stiff. For months it never changed. I'd walk out through that crackling brown that covered all my range and watch the wind blow dust clouds where the good grass should have been. And I'd count the bales in the stack and calculate again the days of feeding I had left before I'd have to face the ultimate decision. What I'd do to save the place. Well, the weatherman was helpful, except he always told the truth. Fiddling chance of 10% meant it just rained in Duluth. That's nice for Minnesota, but it don't help me a bit. I gave up chewing tobacco so I wouldn't have to spit. But he said last night, a chance of rain, more than just a trace. I washed the car and left the windows open just in case, and sure enough this morning big old clouds came rolling in. And they parked above the yard, and the thunder made a din that rattled all the windows in the house where I sat still. And at 2, it started raining. And I still ain't got my fill. It's coming down in buckets like it's paying back a debt. And me, I'm standing in the front yard in my shorts and soaking wet. And when the sun comes out tomorrow, sparkles all around off pools and puddles standing like big diamonds on the ground, I'll remember feast or famine. When it comes to rain, you take the feast when offered if you live out on the plain. This is Baxter Black from out there.
It's time to tune in to Tennessee for CattleCon 2021. CattleCon is the oldest and largest event in the beef cattle industry, and we're headed to the Music City, a city filled with the best music, great food, and some down-home Southern hospitality. And you can't afford to miss the huge NCBA trade show.
It's our Super Bowl event. It's where all the producers come. We gain a lot of knowledge from producers who we've come to know over the years.
There's no better place for cattlemen and women to learn, have fun, and connect with fellow producers from across the country.
The value of it is I get to connect with tons of different producers around the United States and be able to learn from different people as well as meet and network with tons of different companies.
Dynamic speakers, unbeatable education, all for cattle producers. So plan to tune in to Tennessee for CattleCon 2021. Visit convention.ncba.org for more.
Hi everybody, I'm Tom Elliott with John Deere.
Now a BQA tip from the Beef Quality Assurance Program.
One of the first things we need to do when we receive a new set of calves is determine the risk of these cattle for developing respiratory disease. We can buy calves that are very low risk or calves that are very high risk. And this difference is based mostly upon source of the calves. Are they direct from a ranch or they purchased through a livestock auction and they're commingled? The age of the calves. The younger the calf, the greater the risk of respiratory disease. And also any prior history of prevention practices that the calves have had. You know, have they been vaccinated previously and so forth. So as we think about how we're going to process those calves, let's work with our veterinarian to determine what's going to be useful and helpful to the calves and also be cost effective. There's several other things we do to calves that are stressful, and stress of course increases the risk of bovine respiratory disease or pneumonia. Such things as castration, managing horns, branding and so forth need to be done with great skill and be done in a manner that will result in the least amount of stress as possible on these calves. And finally, acclimating calves to the new environment. So instead of just turning calves loose and then we ride in and look for sick calves every day, develop a practice of acclimating these calves to you and your horse or your four-wheeler or walking in these calves depending on how you check them, so that when we check calves or we move them from one place to another, it's the least stress possible on the animals.
Find out more about beef quality assurance at bqa.org.
Well, cattle producers face all kinds of challenges when it comes to protecting our environment, but they all have a common goal: leaving the land better than they found it. We asked cattlemen and women from across the country to share their thoughts on sustainability and what it means to them.
The fact that we've been here for generations at a time, I think, is maybe the definition of sustainability. At the same time, we know that if we don't constantly improve the resources and constantly improve what we do, we're not going to be around here. So one generation is going to do it different than the one before, and the goal is to do it better, or do it, constantly improve and do it better than what the generation before him did.
You looked at it and it's like, well, we do this every day. But we don't explain that enough to the people out there, our consumers and the people buying our meat and things like that. And so, that is the biggest part of it is that now we have to tell our story. And yeah, is there some things that we have learned that we could be better at? Yes, there is. And again, we talk about efficiencies and things like that. And it all ties together with the sustainability. So the biggest thing is us telling our story out to the people.
Sustainability is very important to us on Southern Cross Farm because we have a moral obligation to feed people. And we have a moral obligation to have this land still be here for future generations. If we have a healthy environment, we have healthy animals, and we have healthy people, because people eat the food from the environment and they eat the animals that we produce. So if we have healthy grass, we're releasing more oxygen, we're sequestering carbon, and so yes, we are more sustainable.
Sustainability is really pretty natural. It means you leave the ground better than you found it, you leave your community better than you found it, and you got to make money doing it. If you don't make money, you're not sustainable. I think people just don't understand how we work with Mother Nature. If it's harder to do, we don't do it. It's not profitable to go against nature. People that are worried about climate change and people that are worried about those types of things then they want to compare the big city with smog to what we've got. And they always love it. They just don't realize that it's this way because of what we do. So I just think we need to explain things a little bit better and try to open those communication gaps a little bit.
Do you want to rewatch an episode of Cattlemen to Cattlemen, or even catch up on anything you've missed? Well, then visit our YouTube page. You'll find replays of all of our shows filled with lots of educational segments and producer profiles from across the country. So go to youtube.com/Cattlemen to Cattlemen and check it out. Well, for years now, families have been sending us amazing photos of their sustainable farms and ranches. So let's take a closer look at a few of those beautiful snapshots on this week's Legacy Photos. Want to see your photo here on Cattlemen to Cattlemen? You can submit your favorite shots a couple of different ways. Either message them to us on the Cattlemen to Cattlemen Facebook page or email them to c2c@beef.org. Be sure to include your ranch or farm name and hometown, and we may use them on a future episode. Well, that wraps up this edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Thank you so much for spending time with us, and we'll see you again right here next week on RFD TV.